Ladies and gentlemen, here is the arrival of our guest of honor, Senior Minister of State, Dr. Amy Khor. A very good afternoon, Senior Minister of State for Sustainability and Environment, Dr. Amy Khor, Ms. Georgina Phua, Deputy Principal Development, Singapore Polytechnic, Mr. Ngiam Shee Chu, Chief Executive of the Energy Market Authority, Mr. Koh Chiap Khiong, CEO of Sembcorp Singapore and Southeast Asia, Mr. Johnson Lu, Marketing Director, Asia Pacific, Rinc Global. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Regional Industry Networking Conference, or Rinc 2022. My name is Kui Teck from Singapore Polytechnic, School of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, and I'm your MC this afternoon. Rinc is an annual event that reflects Singapore Polytechnic's close relationship with the industry. The theme for Rinc 2022 is Energy, Sustainability, and Innovation. We have arranged 2 panel sessions with distinguished panelists to share their insights on technology and innovation and how institutes of higher learning, companies, and governmental agencies could collaborate towards developing the talent pipeline for energy sustainability. In addition to the physical audience comprising guests from industry, academia, and governmental agencies who have gathered here at the Convention Center, we are pleased to stream this event live to a virtual audience comprising of 100 local and overseas participants hailing from regional and international countries, as well as over 1,000 students from Singapore Polytechnic. Mr. So Wai Wah, Principal and CEO, Singapore Polytechnics, sends his regret that he's unable to attend the conference today due to an exigency. Without further ado, I will now invite Ms. Georgina Phua, Deputy Principal Development, Singapore Polytechnic, to give the welcome address. Deputy Principal, please.
Senior Minister of State for Sustainability and the Environment, Dr. Amy Khor, Mr. Ngiam Shee Chu, Chief Executive EMA, Mr. Koh Chiap Khiong, CEO, Sembcorp Singapore and Southeast Asia, Mr. Johnson Lu, Marketing Director, Asian Pacific, Rinc Global, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Singapore Polytechnic and to the Regional Industry Networking Conference 2022. In short, Rinc 2022. Once again, on behalf of my PCO, Mr. So Wai Wah, his sincere apology for unable to make it today due to an emergency. Rinc has been an annual conference since 2002. Themed Energy, Sustainability and Innovation, Rinc 2022 focuses on clean and green energy and energy efficiency. This is pertinent and timely as Singapore transitions to a green economy and adopt energy efficiency practices in line with the Singapore Green Plan 2030. As we seek to support the Singapore Green Plan 2030, sustainability has become a strategic priority to Singapore Polytechnic. Our curriculums for students in our diploma programs have been enhanced. Through our Common Core Curriculum program, which cuts across schools of all domains and disciplines, all our students will learn to ideate innovative sustainability solutions for real-life issues, empowering them to understand the present and future challenges. Working adults can enroll in our career conversion programs for clean and renewable energy for professionals. They can also enroll in our specialist diplomas in energy efficiency and management, and air conditioning and energy efficiency, energy sustainability. We have also started courses on solar PV for adult learners, benefiting over 100 participants from 41 companies. We are committed to provide a pipeline of skilled talent to support solar PV sector in Singapore. SP has also been deepening exchanges and strengthening collaborations with industry in various areas on sustainability. For instance, SP has been working with Sembcorp to support local enterprises keen to take on solar projects and uplift their capabilities to help them transform. SP also focuses on sustainability in our research and development. As Singapore ramps up our solar energy deployment, the handling of solar panel waste takes a greater urgency. To address this, in 2018, SP developed an innovative recycling process with up to 95% recovery of precious materials from used solar panels. The following year, we started working with Sembcorp. We tapped on their in-depth market research, market knowledge, and expertise to explore the commercial viability of this technology. I'm happy to share that good progress was made, and we will be launching Singapore's first solar PV pilot demonstration recycling line today. In addition, we are also pleased to announce new partnerships with Sembcorp and also with Chind. We will grow our collaboration with Sembcorp with the establishment of SP Sembcorp Solar PV Research Laboratory. A pioneer in our sector, it offers a platform to test and apply innovative PV technologies. In our collaboration with Chind, we will launch the Smart Electrical Power Training Laboratory. It aims to enhance students' learning experience by exposing them to the latest low-voltage equipment used in the industry. The target is to train over 2,000 students over the 5 years. As part of this collaboration, SP staff will also be trained by Chind experts, both locally and overseas. This is important in keeping SP staff up to date and relevant. All these collaborations are part of SP's effort to be an industry-relevant polytechnic that is progressive and responsive to the needs of the industry, the workforce, and to Singapore. This has been central to our mission for the last 68 years and will continue to be so. In closing, I would like to thank our guest of honor, Senior Minister of State for Sustainability and the Environment, Dr. Amy Khor, for gracing our event this afternoon. We are most honored that she can be here with us today, and also to help us launch the SP Sembcorp and SP Chind collaborations. I would also like to thank Mr. Koh Chiap Keong and Mr. Johnson Lu for the collaborations with Sembcorp Singapore and South Asia and Chind Global, respectively. We are most grateful indeed by the partnership. May I also extend my appreciation to CE of EMA, Mr. Gam Shi Chun, and our other distinguished speakers for sharing your insights this afternoon. I wish all of you a fruitful time. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Principal. It's now my pleasure to invite Mr. Nyam Shi Chun, Chief Executive of the Energy Market Authority, to present the keynote address. Mr. Nyam, please.
Senior Minister of State for Sustainability and the Environment, Dr. Amy Khor, Ms. Georgina Phua, Deputy Principal, Singapore Polytechnic. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here at the Regional Industry Networking Conference 2022. The theme of this year's conference is Energy, Sustainability and Innovation. And I will talk a bit more about how sustainability and innovation play critical roles in the energy transition. As we all know, climate change is one of the greatest challenges of our time. Countries all around the world have committed to decarbonization targets, and Singapore is no different. Just last week, Deputy Prime Minister Lawrence Wong announced that Singapore will achieve net zero emissions by 2050. The power sector contributes 40% of carbon emissions in Singapore. So it is imperative that the power sector in Singapore decarbonizes. Otherwise, we will not be able to achieve our net zero goals. So let me share about how we are planning to decarbonize our power sector. The very first switch is our switch to natural gas. And this took place more than 60 years ago, when we moved from coal to fuel oil. This was even before Singapore's independence. Between 2000 and 2010, we shifted from fuel oil to natural gas. And by the start of the last decade, we were almost completely dependent on natural gas for power generation in Singapore. And today, 95% of electricity in Singapore is generated from natural gas. It is the cleanest fossil fuel. It is a stable supply of energy. There's a large liquid market globally around the world. And so it enhances our energy security. But it is still a fossil fuel and emits carbon when it's combusted. So we have to invest in our domestic renewable energy resources. We have been putting in a lot of effort on solar. Just over the last 2 years, during the pandemic, we increased our solar deployment from 350 megawatt peak to almost 670 megawatt peak. And this was during the pandemic itself. We will continue to press on to maximize the amount of solar across all our available services, on rooftops, on water surfaces, both inshore, on land, as well as offshore, and even on sites of buildings. But given our weather, our cloud cover, and the limited land that we have in Singapore, there is a limit to the amount of solar that we can deploy. So we are developing and tapping on regional power grids. And the reason for this is simple. The region is full of renewable energy resources. Our regional countries have plenty of solar, hydro power, geothermal, wind power. And by developing regional power grids, companies are able to develop the renewable energy resources in these overseas countries, in these regional countries, which can help decarbonize their economies, providing renewable energy resources for regional countries, and for Singapore to decarbonize our own power sector as well. At the same time, regional power grids can also enhance energy security because the power grids can provide mutual support for each other. But there is a limit to the amount of energy that we can import for energy security reasons. We can't very well import all the energy that Singapore requires. And so we are developing low-carbon alternatives. Last week, at the Singapore International Energy Week, Deputy Prime Minister Wong spoke about our national hydrogen strategy. And this strategy here, we will be developing hydrogen, ammonia, as low-carbon alternatives. We can help our power sector decarbonize, our industrial sector that depends on hydrogen to decarbonize, and possibly even as a maritime bunkering fuel. The Energy Market Authority will be launching an expression of interest for a low-carbon ammonia project, which would be an end-to-end solution covering the production, the supply, the transport, the distribution, and the use of ammonia for power generation. And this will be put out over the next few months, next couple of months. And we look forward to participation by companies and academia in this expression of interest. The technology is not new for hydrogen and ammonia, but it has not been deployed at scale for power generation or even for maritime purposes. So the costs are still high. So I've talked about the 4 switches: natural gas, solar, regional power grids, and low-carbon alternatives. And if you've noticed, each of these switches come with trade-offs. It's very difficult to achieve what we call the energy trilemma, or balancing energy security, sustainability, and cost. Each of these solutions may not meet all 3 limbs of this energy trilemma. But there is one energy strategy which can achieve all three limbs of this energy trilemma, and that is demand management. Consumers play a critical role in the energy transition. Today, consumers simply connect to the power grid and expect power to flow. When a new building is built, a new factory, a new block of flats, we expect power to be always available. And this means that we have to build more supply of power. This means more power stations, means more grid infrastructure. And this would not really be an issue if our energy was 100% clean. But as I explained, it will take some time for the energy transition to take place. So over the next 30 years, while we progress from natural gas to regional power grids and low-carbon alternatives, our energy will not be 100% clean. And that's why we have to be able to manage demand. If you're able to manage the increase in demand, we can limit the growth or the new power stations that we require, the substations that we require, the cable deployments that we require. This lowers costs for consumers. And because we consume less fuel to produce less energy, we reduce our carbon emissions as well. And because we are dependent on less imported fuels, we improve our energy security. So, through better management of energy demand, we can balance the energy trilemma. This is the only energy strategy that can actually balance the energy trilemma. Let me share two other takeaways from the energy transition and its relevance to the energy transition. Right? So, first of all, technology and innovation will be critical to this journey. We need technology to do ever more for energy sector. For solar, we require solar panels to be ever more efficient because we are land constrained and space constrained. So we need technology to push that frontier to become ever more efficient. For regional power grids, we're talking about importing electricity from places that could be 4,000 kilometers away. This is longer than any other regional power grid in the world. It will be laid at depths deeper than any other project around the world. We require technology to do far more than before. And when we talk about low-carbon alternatives like hydrogen and green ammonia, the technology is not that new, but deployment at scale is very challenging. Technologies such as ammonia cracking, for instance, have only been demonstrated in the lab. So there's a whole lot more that can be done for technology and innovation before the energy transition can be successful. The second key takeaway is that international collaborations and regional collaborations are absolutely critical. Take regional power grids, for instance. Renewable energy resources are often far away from where the demand is. So it could be far out in a dam somewhere, but where factories and people live, that's usually very far away. And in Singapore's context, it's absolutely true. We are small, dense, alternative energy disadvantaged. We can depend on the renewable energy resources across the region. And through regional collaboration, we can both develop the renewable energy resources in the region, which will benefit both the economies around the region as well as Singapore, helping everyone in this region decarbonize. At the same time, we can access technology, innovation through collaborations and partnerships. So this regional industry networking conference is one opportunity for companies to come together with IHLs to discuss and find ways to collaborate with each other and develop new business partnerships which will enable a green economy to take place and a faster energy transition. In conclusion, the energy transition is full of exciting opportunities for everyone. There are many opportunities for the public sector, the private sector to work together in partnership, to find opportunities to collaborate with each other to make this energy transition a very successful one. I wish everyone here a very successful conference and meaningful conversations ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nyam. We are honored to have Dr. Amy Khor, Senior Minister of State for Sustainability and the Environment, grace our event as guest of honor, and also to officiate the SP Kencop SP Chin collaboration today. We would like to invite SMS Core to deliver the guest of honor address before the launches. SMS Core, please.
Ms. Georgina Phua, Deputy Principal of Singapore Polytechnic, Mr. Ngiam Shih Chun, Chief Executive, Energy Market Authority, Mr. Koh Chiap Kiong, CEO, Sembcorp Singapore and Southeast Asia, Mr. Johnson Lu, Marketing Director, Asia Pacific, Ching Global. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to one and all. Indeed, it is my pleasure to join all of you at this Regional Industry Networking Conference 2022, or Rinc 2022. The theme for today's conference, as you have already heard and seen here, energy sustainability and innovation, is certainly salient against the backdrop of the challenges that we see today in the energy ecosystem. The climate crisis is the existential threat of this generation. Extreme weather events have become increasingly common, with Hurricane Ian and the deadly floods in Pakistan being the latest examples. As a low-lying island state, Singapore is especially vulnerable to sea level rise. With limited land and manpower, we also face challenges in our climate mitigation efforts. Yet, within crisis lies seeds of opportunity. Globally, the energy landscape is undergoing a major shift towards renewable energy, with a push for decarbonization and phasing out of fossil fuels, as you have just heard. The International Energy Agency, or IEA, forecasts that global renewable electricity capacity will rise more than 60% from 2020 levels. Admittedly, given current geopolitical concerns, we are seeing a short-term retreat back to fossil fuels. But the long-term trajectory remains. We are moving away from fossil fuels to renewables. Unfortunately, within Singapore, we have limited renewable energy options. Solar energy remains the most viable and promising energy source for electricity generation. However, several factors still affect its commercial viability and national scalability. These include limited land and rooftop spaces for deployment, cloud cover, and the overall efficiency of solar technology. Despite these constraints, the government is committed to working closely with stakeholders to deploy renewable energy at scale. The Singapore Green Plan 2030 is a whole-of-nation movement to advance Singapore's agenda on sustainable development. One of the 5 pillars of the Green Plan is energy reset. Under this pillar, the government aims to use cleaner energy sources across all sectors. For solar energy, we have set the goal of increasing solar energy deployment by 3 times to at least 2 gigawatt peak by 2030. This is equivalent to powering 350,000 households for a year. Last week, as again noted earlier, Deputy Prime Minister Lawrence Wong also announced plans to develop hydrogen as a major decarbonization pathway to support Singapore's ambition to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. Singapore's transition towards a low-carbon future will require the collective efforts of all stakeholders. Last month, my Ministry for Sustainability and Environment, launch public engagements for environmental sustainability under Forward SG or Forward Singapore's Steward Pillar. This exercise invites businesses, communities and individuals to share your views on how we can work together to keep Singapore green, livable and climate resilient for future generations. One way that we can jointly show our commitment to make Singapore a green, livable and climate resilient nation is by making the Green Nation Pledge. I encourage everyone here to think about how you can make a difference in your workplace, in the community and at home, and take action by being a contributor, an advocate, or a champion for environmental sustainability. Partnership will be critical for progress to be made under the Green Plan. That is why I'm especially encouraged about the collaborations announced this afternoon, which bring SP and 2 companies together in a spirit of innovation. The SP Sembcorp Solar Photovoltaics or PV Research Laboratory provides a platform to find solutions to improve the conversion of light into electricity. The solar PV pilot demonstration recycling line looks into reclaiming valuable materials from PV modules and demonstrating its commercial viability for industrial adoption. Such a recycling line will strengthen our capabilities in managing PV panel waste and contribute towards closing our resource loop for e-waste. In fact, the PV panels or the solar photovoltaic panels is actually one of the product that is covered, e-waste, that is covered under our EPR for e-waste that we implemented just in July 2021. And indeed, even as we cover, as many of our rooftops as possible, and also our water waste, the reservoirs, for instance, with PVs, we need to think about what we will have to do with them, how we can actually collect and then properly treat and recycle them at the end of life. And so indeed this demonstration, a pilot recycling line really is a step forward in terms of looking at how we can actually do this effectively and efficiently and with high rate of recovery. Enhancing energy efficiency is one of the key sustainable development goals put forward by the United Nations. In Singapore, we adopt a whole-of-government approach to improve energy efficiency across various sectors through legislations, incentives, as well as education. We also recognize the need to have a sufficient pool of skilled manpower as a key enabler for improving energy efficiency. Hence, we have been building capabilities for the local energy efficiency ecosystem, such as through the Singapore Certified Energy Manager and Energy Efficiency Opportunities Assessor certification schemes. I'm heartened to learn that the collaborations between SP and its industry partners, Sembcorp and Chint, will develop capability in the energy and power industries. This will complement existing efforts to grow the local energy efficiency ecosystem. Having the industry in close nexus with the academia is key to shortening the transfer of knowledge between industry and academia and developing more industry-ready graduates. As we forge ahead towards greater energy sustainability, let us not be constrained by our limited renewable energy options. We should leverage the exciting possibilities that new energy technologies could bring to accelerate our transition to a sustainable energy future. Indeed, I wish all of you a most fruitful session today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. Please remain on the stage for the launch. Now I would like to invite Mr. Koh Chiap Kiong, CEO of Sembcorp Singapore and Southeast Asia, and Deputy Principal on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to announce the launch of 2 SP industry collaborations today. We will now launch the first industry collaboration, from which we will see 2 new facilities set up in SP. One of them is the solar PV pilot demonstration recycling line in collaboration with Sembcorp, and the other is the SP Sembcorp Solar PV Research Laboratory. After months of hard work, we are now ready to unveil this exciting collaboration. At the count of 3, may I invite SMS Call, Mr. Koh, and Deputy Principal to press the launch button simultaneously. 1, 2, 3. Now let's enjoy a short video for this launch. Thank you, SMS Call, Mr. Koh and Deputy Principal. Now may we invite you to take a group photo, please. May I request the SMS Call and Deputy Principal remain on stage, please? Thank you, Mr. Koh. At the same time, I'd like to invite Mr. Johnson Lu, Marketing Director of Asia Pacific Chains Global, on stage. Mr. Lu, please. Next, we will launch the SP Chains Partnership, which sees a new facility, the Smart Electrical Power Training Laboratory, established in SP. Are we ready for this exciting moment? At the count of 3, may I invite SMS Call, Mr. Lu, and Deputy Principal to flip the switch simultaneously. 1, 2, 3. Now let's enjoy a short video for this launch. Thank you, SMS Call, Mr. Lu and Deputy Principal. Now we'd like to invite you to take a group photo. Thank you once again, SMS Call, Mr. Lu and Deputy Principal. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now invite our VIP group to a facility tour. Please remain seated while they take their leave. The launch of the SP Sembcorp and SP Chains collaborations aims to play a vanguard role in bolstering the development of solar energy recycling and smart electrical equipment. The collaborations will support the architecture for a sustainable ecosystem. SP is pleased to work with Sembcorp and Chains to achieve these objectives. Ladies and gentlemen, We will now move on to the next segment of the conference, which is our panel sessions. Please refer to the QR code currently shown on the screen, which you can scan to share any queries or comments you may have regarding the panel topic. Our first panel session is themed Technology and Innovation. I would like to invite the panel on stage. Our panel moderator, Mr. Goh Se Sing, Deputy Director, School of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, Singapore Polytechnic. Our distinguished panelist, Mr. Benjamin Kuo, Regional Application Marketing Manager, Change Global Trading Private Limited. Mr. Samuel Yong, Director, Strategic Marketing and Business Strategy, Inchcape Singapore. Mr. Vernon Neo, Executive Director, Envision Private Limited. And Mr. Eddie Tan, Vice President, Integrated Digital Projects, Singapore, Sengkang Industries. Mr. Goh Se Sing, with a team of over 40 academics, drive technology development in collaboration with industry and research institutions in the areas of power and sustainable energy, autonomous and transportation systems, robotics and automations, and semiconductors. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now hand over the panel discussion to our panel moderator, Mr. Goh. Mr. Goh, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Se Sing, and I will be the moderator for this panel discussion on technology and innovation. Climate change is an important issue the world is looking at. Singapore has taken actions to combat climate change with an ambition to achieve net zero emission by 2050. We have earlier heard about decarbonizing the carbon sector, which is a key effort made by Singapore, because the Singapore power sector now produces about 40% of the country's emission. Decarbonizing it will also help other sectors, such as transport and some heavy industries, to become more sustainable through electrification. To achieve net zero emission, we must be prepared to make bold changes along the way, based on technology trends as well as other global developments. For today's panel discussion, we are very fortunate to have with us panelists with expertise in different domains of energy. But before we dive into the introduction of panelists, we would like to know a little bit more on the profile of our audience here. Can we have a show of hands? How many of you work in the power industry here? Thank you. How many of you work in the areas that are relevant to electric vehicle? Okay, thank you. How many of you in research and development in energy sustainability area? Yes, I saw a handful. And how many of you are completely new to energy industry? Okay, so yes, we have a number. That's great. Thank you. Let us allow each of the panelists to briefly introduce themselves and tell us about their background in the industry. Can we start with Mr. Benjamin?
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, fellow panelists and distinguished guests and visitors. Thank you for spending this afternoon with us. I'm Benjamin, Regional Marketing Application Manager for Chain Global. We're looking at the region in Asia Pacific. At Chain Global, we are a global company focusing on energy sustainable solutions, empowering businesses, communities with smart electrical and sustainable energy solutions. Really, as our earlier keynote addresses have mentioned, is that energy sustainability is very important and really something that touches all our hearts today and our pockets. Right. So I hope that today's session we can share a little bit more about what we do that enables technology and with technology and innovation for the energy sustainability sector. Thank you.
Okay. Shall we have the introduction by Mr. Samuel?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Samuel. I'm the Director for Strategic Marketing and Business Strategy for the Inchcape Singapore. Inchcape is the globally operating for automotive distribution. We are the biggest automotive distributor in the world, operating in over 40 markets. The energy sector and the transportation sector is greatly affected by the green movement, and I think it's for a good reason. And as such, my inherent curiosity is always how we can still continue to live our lifestyle and has as little trade-off as possible. How can we be green but still live our aspirations and lifestyle? For example, how do you continue to drive or drive less, or how you can maximize your driving behavior to make sure that you do your part for the environment as well. So thank you for having me here.
Mr. Vernon, please.
Good afternoon. So I'm Vernon, Director of Envision. We started off as a deep learning, AI deep learning-based machine vision software solution. And our solutions are actually implemented with PSA across all the container handling equipment in both Pasir Panjang Terminal as well as Tuas Port Terminal, the new upcoming mega Tuas Port Terminal. And I think we have just spin off, so we have a new spin off which looks into EV chargers management. And we have developed a universal EV charger management software platform, as well as looking into ESS solutions. So this is currently what we are doing. So anyway, we are just I think we are just a 5-year-old startup, starting from a 2-person startup. So right now the team is 8 full-timers with I think 5 contract staff and 8 interns. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's all.
Okay, Mr. Eddie.
Distinguished panelists, guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Eddie from Semcon Industry. I oversee product development with the Singapore Solar team. I think with the recent energy crisis and the ongoing effort to tackle climate change, there's a lot more focus on renewables and other forms of cleaner energy resources. I think we heard from Minister that there's going to be a huge increase in consumption of energy from renewable resources. So naturally, there are a lot of technology innovation that is gravitating towards renewable, making it more accessible at scale. This includes the use of energy storage and making PV panel more efficient. So, and I think what's getting more attention recently is to help Singapore decarbonize further is the use of hydrogen. And we at Sembcorp is also working with multiple partners to bring about a commercial scale supply chain to make decarbonized hydrogen more accessible and to be delivered more efficiently into Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. Now let me start with the first question. What do you think are the innovations in energy sustainability? Shall we hear from Mr. Benjamin first?
I'd like to take from the perspective of AI, implementation of AI, for example. For us, in terms of sustainability and using AI, we do it at our factories and our manufacturing facilities, firstly. With AI, with a smart factory, we have a couple of them, and we're able to achieve much higher efficiencies and enable this sustainability movement, this green movement, a lot quicker. For example, in one of our factories, we are able to increase the productivity, reduce the manpower needed from 300 staff to only 10 staff in a completely autonomous and AI-enabled environment for manufacturing of circuit breakers. So that is on the consumption part. And on the power generation part, we have another factory that uses AI and also completely autonomous, no operators. And we're able to produce up to about 12 gigawatts of solar panels per year in this couple of factories that we have that are completely autonomous. So with the use of AI, we believe that we're able to reduce the amount of wastage, and we have demonstrated that. So quality control has improved, has increased. Amount of production waste has also reduced. And I think these are the different factors that will enable a much more efficient and really sustainable energy transition.
Thank you, Benjamin. Samuel, what are your thoughts?
For the automotive industry, most of the innovations are not new, as mentioned by the energy market chief as well. I'm going to share three. That's on top of what Benjamin has shared. There's an extensive use of AI in automotive industry, but usually it's all in the area of trying to become smarter in avoiding incidents, so for safety. But for energy innovation, there'll be three. First one is, of course, the increasing improvement in terms of battery technology. So everyone is now talking a lot about solid-state batteries. Solid-state batteries hold the promise of being able to hold more charge, being lighter, and being able to therefore offer you a greater range at the same weight or less, therefore you can go further. So it's basically maximizing the energy usage. The second one is also closely related to what Eddie has shared, is on hydrogen. So fuel cell technology is already available in automotive sector for a long time, but I think it's also the same as the dilemma that Singapore as a whole country is facing, to reduce the cost of the technology so that mass adoption can happen. Fuel cell technology promise that you can live your lifestyle and not compromise it, because just like an internal combustion engine or what we call a conventional engine, you turn up at a fuel cell station, you pump it with hydrogen, it takes 45 seconds, and off you go. You can travel between 600 to 1,000 kilometers, and that will be you having not to change your lifestyle, besides going to the pump station now, but everything is clean. The final one will be something that is also very high up in the automotive sector, but it's again about bringing cost to a sustainable level, that is solar panel vehicles. So there are already some solar panel vehicles out there. Toyota has just launched one. It has a limited range, so fully charged, you can move around 15 to 20 kilometers a day. So I guess that's just enough for you to go to school and go home, maybe. And hopefully, with the advent of the technology, we'll be able to bring the range up to maybe somewhere between 60 to 80 kilometers. And by then, you probably will just rely on the sun to move around.
Thank you. Vernon, would you like to share your thoughts on the innovations in energy sustainability?
So I think we are looking at a few areas. Of course, the exploration of the different kinds of renewable energy besides solar, thermal, wind, depending on, or even tidal. So it's the R&D part of it. The second, of course, is through industrial automation. I quote the example of PSA. They have been, for years, they have been trying to basically automate all their machines without the operators, and they have been quite successful. In fact, our solutions are also helping them in a certain way. And the example of the operations of the port, previously, in Singapore-wise, if you realize, when we talk about peak and off-peak, the daytime operations, when all the industry starts working, of course, is where the peak demand for the grid basically are realized. And off-peak basically happens after midnight. And for PSA case, if you're looking just from operation point of view or industrial operations of the factories in general, if you are able to do automation whereby the systems that, or the operations are as efficient during the night as in the day, where the productivity never drops. In fact, if you can shift your operations in the night time, and that's how we can manage the energy consumption, as what the EMA boss just mentioned. So I guess that's one way of how we can effectively reduce costs and at the same time, I guess, more efficiently use energy. I think that's all.
Okay, we'd like to hear from Eddie, your views.
I'll echo a bit of what other panelists have mentioned, but about hydrogen, energy storage are the new innovation industries that make renewable more accessible and more commercially viable. I will focus a bit more on solar because that's the business I'm from. We are seeing small incremental improvement in solar efficiency. We have moved from poly to mono, P-type to N-type, HJT. Perovskite is coming. It's claimed to go up to 25% efficiency, but currently they're still suffering some stability issue, thermal degradation. But because solar is such a mature technology, we don't see big leap improvement, small incremental improvement. But if you look at panels from, say, 8 to 10 years ago, we are easily seeing double the capacity. So a project that's done 8 to 10 years ago, we are looking at 300, 350 watt per panel capacity, watt peak. Now we are looking at about 700 watt. So potentially this kind of improvement can help to leapfrog, not immediately, but over a decade, the kind of capacity that you can get. Another point is about data. Most of the inverters today are quite smart. They're all smart inverters anyway. So we're getting heaps amount of data that's coming through the inverters. So even at Sembcorp, we have developed our own software with our in-house data scientists to analyze those data to better predict and be more proactive in our maintenance in order to maintain those assets more efficiently.
Thank you. Our next few questions will be specific questions for Benjamin and Eddie. Mr. Eddie, what are the challenges of deploying solar energy in Singapore?
Where should I start? Weather. Okay, I think we heard from Minister as well as he just now that although we are known as sunny Singapore, we do get significant cloud cover. Take the last few days example. It's not perfect for solar. So although we are right on the equator, we get quite a fair bit of rain, so that's one of the challenges to get more yield out of panels. Another problem is temperature. In a hot afternoon sun, our panels can go up to 70 to 80 degrees Celsius, and that is severely affecting the efficiency of our panels. Next, in Singapore is land or the lack of it. So without being a land-scarce country, we have to look at other more challenging terrain or surface to mount panels like floating solar. If you have a chance to visit us at Tengah, you understand the scale and how challenging it would be for us to deploy solar panels on floating surface. Next is, if we are even given any land, those land are offered to us on temporary basis, meaning we would be given 6-month notice and we'll be asked to relocate our panels to another plot of land in replacement of what we were given. So under this kind of condition, the kind of technology that we use, the way we deploy the panel, the way we install panels gets very challenging. One other, I would think, is the landscape. We are obviously in a very urbanized landscape. Unlike a solar farm in a rural country, in a more bigger country, they can truck in a 40-foot container and unload the panel on site and start deploying the panel immediately. Over here, we kind of have to break them down in bite size, hoist them up to the roof in smaller quantities, and to deploy them at a more careful pace. So these are some of the challenges I think is fairly unique to us or any other urban country like Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Let's hear from Benjamin. Can you share with us about the cost of solar panels long terms as compared with electricity tariff? When will there be a break-even point to encourage consumers to adopt solar solution?
So echoing what Eddie has shared, financial cost is definitely one of the challenges for adopting solar. And at Chin, we are not immune to the inflationary pressures that we are seeing today. So we look at it from two perspectives. One I've shared a little bit earlier is using AI in our production. So that's how we keep our costs of manufacturing low. We sign long-term projects, long-term contracts with the different manufacturers of the different components in the supply chain, and that really enables us to keep total cost low. On the other hand, on the power generation side, as Eddie also mentioned, there's the different new technologies, P-type, N-type, different kinds of cells. We are also pushing those boundaries, trying to do better, partnering with some of the other institutions, some of the many institutions out there in different research and development to enable this high level of efficiencies. And that will keep the running costs and the total life cycle cost of solar panels much lower. From the other perspective, also coming back to manufacturing, what we are doing, as Eddie mentioned, solar panels are now pushing boundaries of 700 watts per panel. We are also pushing into those areas, and how we're seeing it is through the manufacturing process again. By manufacturing with much higher tolerances, with a lot of robotics and automation processes put in, we're able to ensure that all the panels are built with very high quality and and much lighter and quicker to be installed that way. Eddie mentioned that the earlier panels of 300 watts, I mean, they are soon to be due for recycling. There's so much material to be recycled there because the glass were much thicker, silver, and all the other materials are a lot more. And we are trying to push that boundaries by making sure there's not as much waste in the panels, making them lighter, easier to be installed. And that will overall keep the price of solar panels more affordable, or for solar deployment more affordable. The other thing that we're looking at is also innovations in business. Right? It is not so new, but rather not many countries have, not many areas have also really adopted that, and that is through financing. One way we have seen solar adoption really take off is through the means of green financing, sustainable financing. I think if you've seen some op-eds in Channel News Asia, UOB is just one of those banks. I believe DBS and OCBC are some of these other companies that are coming up with green loans, green bonds, that will really enable consumers to then be able to adopt solar in a much more affordable way, and at the same time, then not having to adjust their lifestyle so much. So that's what we see.
Thank you. One of the key targets in Singapore's Green Plan 2030 is to deploy at least 2 gigawatts peak power by 2030 from the current 500 megawatts peak power. Now, this is 4 times more. How are we able to reach that target? Eddie, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. I think we heard also just now from Minister Ossie that as of first quarter this year, we stand at 670 megawatt peak. So we're still quite a fair bit from the 2 gigawatt target. But I think the government is doing a good job in launching quite a number of national projects. One of which is the Solar Nova project, if you're not familiar. It's covering our HDB estates and the government buildings like schools with solar panels, basically. So far, there have been 7 projects ready, Solar Nova 1 to 7. Sembcorp, we are doing all the prime numbers, 2, 3, 5, and 7. And this will help to give a good coverage of solar panels for as many roofs as we can find in Singapore, the government-owned buildings. On the other side, we also heard about the floating solar projects. We did the one at Tengah Reservoir, and the plan is to cover other reservoirs with solar panels. That will also help to increase the capacity. I mentioned briefly just now also, we are now using temporary land. So to put panels on the land, to own that for 20 years is quite difficult here. So what the government had did, what JTC has done in one of the projects we are doing in Tuas is we are given the land. There's no guarantee how long we can be there, but the way we do it is that it's fairly portable, mobile. Should we be given notice, we'll be replaced with another piece of land. We'll just redeploy the panel to another piece of land. So I think that's how, at a national level, we are trying to hit those targets. From a legislation perspective, potentially we can also look at what EU is now considering. So what they are looking at now is to potentially make all new building to be mandatory to be fitted with solar by 2029. Even if it's not down that path to make it mandatory, perhaps something that can be considered is to make the building at least be solar friendly. What I mean by solar friendly is that the type of roof that's used should not be too steep. It should be relatively flat to increase the yield of the panels that could be installed on it. And also potentially putting tie-in points on the roof instead of putting it at the bottom, then we have to run the cable all the way down. So those are the small things that can potentially help to increase the amount of capacity that we can install on the roof. I mentioned just now also because of technology improvement, a 1 megawatt plant that we installed 8-10 years ago could potentially be 2 megawatt now, just by doubling the capacity because of improvement in technologies. So those are some of the means that I think that we can help us reach the target as a country. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Electricity demand will rise in the coming years due to economic growth, electrification of transport, and some other sectors. Solar power generation and energy storage systems are expected to become cheaper and more efficient. Distributed energy resources like solar generation system, battery energy storage system and electric vehicles are likely to proliferate within the Singapore's energy system. We have a better understanding of solar generation system from Mr. Eddie and Mr. Benjamin. Let us now seek some understanding on electric vehicles and battery energy storage system. Mr. Samuel, how will the increased use of EV help Singapore achieve its carbon footprint target?
Before I answer this question, it's important to also look at the beginning of the automotive industry. When Henry Ford made his first vehicle, I think he famously said something to that effect, not word for word, so please don't quote me. He mentioned something that I produce a great vehicle and I'm about giving consumer choices. You can order anything you want as long as it's a T model in black. So much about giving consumer choices. Back to the point. I think there is a common belief today that we are all led to believe that if we want to decarbonize the transport sector or the automotive sector, the only solution is battery electric vehicles. But I think something very exciting happened last week when DPM Wong made the announcement that we are going to go into net zero by 2050. Central to his strategy is the development of a national hydrogen strategy. With hydrogen as the power to supply, it gives us this opportunity to think very broadly. It also allows manufacturers, especially automotive manufacturers, to now truly offer consumers a wide range of choices and different pathways to decarbonization. Think for a minute. What if, and again, don't quote me, I'm just imagining aloud. What if instead of changing to a new vehicle, your existing conventional engine do not run on fossil fuel, but runs on hydrogen? So what you will produce is not just zero emission, but you will produce water, life-giving substance. What if fuel cell were to improve and you will be able to then drive hydrogen fuel cell vehicles? So the possibilities are a lot more endless, and I think the beauty of it is you do not have to change your lifestyle dramatically, and the consumers will have a choice.
Thank you. Vernon, there are many EV charging providers in the market. Can you share with us if they are the same?
I mean, to be quite frank, EV chargers, because I'm dealing in software platform, so to me, EV chargers is just a piece of hardware. It's just like your mobile phone charger. It's basically how you control and you manage it. So, like what our solution is basically showcasing in SPGG, where we basically deployed 3 chargers from different brands, ABB, Siemens, and Schneider, and we control it using our universal EV charger management platform. So basically, like I said, if you are currently looking out in the market, basically LTA basically just says that as long as they have reviewed it through and issue a LNO for the charger itself as a piece of hardware, you can use it in Singapore as to be released for public charging. But if you are using it at home, if you have a landed and you are deploying your own chargers, you can basically get from Amazon or any website. You don't even need to be LNO certified. The implementation of an EV charger basically is just REW and the basic M&E works. So basically, like I said, it is, to be quite frank, there is not much technology currently, except that if you are looking into the management and how to basically being more effective in terms of managing the chargers, in terms of hogging, in terms of charging and discharging cycle, how to make the chargers being more effective to charge up the EV faster. The vehicle itself probably even have to do some form of upgrading in terms of the software, because currently there's a safety latch system where even after charging, you cannot dislodge the charger point. but basically, if you just need to tweak the software a bit for the car manufacturers, upon the full charge, you probably can remove it so then another vehicle can come in. Then you can basically use one charger for multiple vehicles. I guess that's the difference right now.
So Vernon, what do you think are the difficulties for installing EV chargers in housing estate or convincing estate owners to install chargers?
Okay, what we know of now, except whatever is covered for private estate or condos, I think is basically the MCST, getting the MCST approval. But in terms of public housing, even for LTA right now, what we realize or what we understand is that the current estate itself, there's a limitation to the substation. So there is no extra capacities for EV chargers installation in the multi-story car parks. And we are saying that even right now, as LTA roll out the 60,000 chargers, per car park, per multi-story car park, probably 3 to 5 chargers, LTA is saying that there's not enough capacity from the substation. So basically, even though I do understand that the government is trying to, so in a way, basically, if you increase the number of EVs on the road right now, but you do not have the infrastructure to support the charging, so that is something that we foresee. And the issue here is that as the government is pushing for that 2 or 3 gigawatt upcoming, it really depends on where you are installing this so-called energy storage systems or how you're managing it. Because the ideal way would be what Sembcorp is doing, probably. They are going into the estate itself. Because you realize that even if you are, let me put it in layman terms, even if you are building a bigger reservoir to store more water, but your pipeline is limited at the substation. So if you have that size of pipe and if you are building more taps to utilize your water through your pipe, how big your reservoir, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get enough water to enough taps over there. So basically is where you deploy your ESS and your solar panels. I think that will help in terms of elevating the demand itself. Yeah.
Thank you. Samuel, apart from EV charger issues, what are the other challenges to encourage adoption of electric vehicles?
Through our focus group findings and also through speaking to our actual customers, so you guys tell us, so I didn't make this up, is besides charging infrastructure, there are a number of considerations. I think the other two that is weighing very highly on consumers' mind is the availability of choices. Right now in the market, for every one EV model that is available for you to choose, there are about 7 to 8 conventional and hybrid models that you can choose from. So the lack of choice will be one that is weighing heavily on the minds of the consumer. But this will change because most manufacturers have committed, including Toyota, has committed that by 2025, they will roll out a whole range of EV models. So I think it's not in the too distant future. We just have to sit out for another 3 years or so, and your choices will start to become many. So that's one. The next one is one of financial. I think a lot of consumers, because Singapore is probably one of the most expensive places to own a vehicle. No, I think I correct myself. It's the most expensive place in the world to own a vehicle. Lifetime ownership cost becomes a very important consideration for many consumers. In a recent June article, Straits Times have quoted, they have done a research and they have done a survey and they found out that currently an EV model costs between 10 to 20% more to maintain over the 10-year life cycle of a vehicle compared to a conventional vehicle. So in my opinion, the inflection point will come when the total cost of ownership between a conventional vehicle and an EV becomes the same or less. Because consumers like to feel that they want to do their part for the environment, but it should not be a at a huge financial cost to them as well. So I think these are the two very important things that consumers think about on top of charging infrastructure.
Thank you. Okay, I will just give one more last question for all members of the panelists before we open to our audience for questions. What are the strategic plans that we can have for the next 5 years in the area of energy sustainability? Perhaps we can have 1 minute per member to speak about it.
Okay, maybe I start. So I think in terms of the next 5 years, what could change to hit the 2 gigawatt target by 2030? I think one of the things that we here at Chint, we have looked at is solar plus. Not just trying to meet the 2030 green plan, but also the 30 by 30 food plan. Some of the developments that we have done, some projects that we have done a bit of research and development in is solar plus agriculture. It's a bit convoluting. We all think that agriculture will need, obviously, a lot of sunlight as well for plants to grow. But something that we have discovered in our little bit of innovation is that there are, in fact, plants that require this climate control. A bit more shading, and the yields are a little bit better. For example, kiwi fruit, goji berries, and some of the other Chinese herbs, some of the TCM herbs. So such projects we have embarked on, and those have yielded some results. So I think a little bit more innovation, a little bit more imagination in the next 5 years will take us a long way into meeting not just the 2030 Green Plan, but also maybe other societal challenges. So for Singapore, which is short in land, actually it's not just a Singapore problem. Regionally, there are, in fact, a lot of problems with land use as well. I think EMA chief, he mentioned that solar, not just solar plants, but a lot of renewable plants are actually very far out in the rural areas. And that's actually very challenging because getting operations out there and then channeling all the electricity back, they all have a lot of costs. So really, I think it's something that we have been pushing out and developing in the region. And it's something that we'd like to look at more in Singapore and to be a bit more innovative to solve the different challenges that we have.
Thank you. Samuel?
Yeah. So on this topic, I think we can all play a part like what Dr. Amy Kaur said. So I think I will start with what our ambitions as a company. Inchcape as a company, we are committed, and in fact, we already declared that we will try and reduce by 2030 our whole company global operation greenhouse emission gas by 46% from 2019 baseline. 2019 is because it's pre-COVID. So it's not fair to take COVID as a base year because your carbon emissions are generally a bit lower. So how we intend to do that is to actively pursue Scope 1 and Scope 2 reductions. And thanks to the work of Benjamin and Eddie, solar panel has already taken a very important part in our company culture as well. We realized that in one of the sites when we install solar panels, combined with the use of LED lighting, just the two alone, we are able to reduce our energy usage by 30%. So I think it's very encouraging, and we will continue to try and roll this out to our 2 remaining sites in Singapore as well. So I think that will really make a big contribution towards this target and also the Singapore Green Plan.
Vernon?
So basically for me, I think I'm looking at, the government itself is looking at a few areas already. They are looking at mainly the big contributors, which is, of course, the cars on the road. So basically, we're channeling towards EV. Of course, they are looking at the industrial, of course, the social aspect of it, where everybody is supposed to do their part from at home in terms of your habits, energy consumption habits and all this. In terms of the private sector itself, of course, the target is, if you're looking at it, basically is, again, what the topic here is basically through innovation. So innovation in the sense of industrial, if you're looking at industrial and manufacturing sector, these are also the biggest contributors. If you can make your plant be as efficient, like I said, during off-peak hours, which is from midnight onwards, where you don't need human being to operate and the machines runs as smoothly. Your output basically is increased. It doesn't decrease during the nighttime because of less manpower or something. Basically, like I said, you basically realize that your production costs will reduce drastically, because in the daytime you can even switch off your plant and run full time during the night. Then your day consumption, for the grid itself, you lower the stress on the grid itself. You basically buy power off peak at a lower cost, and I guess that's where I think we can go look at in this area.
Mr. Eddie, what are your views?
Okay, I'll make this a quick one. I think we have heard about at the national level the green plan, the 4 switches. So as a company, Sembcorp is also sort of government. We have taken a strategic plan from brown to green, meaning that as a company, we will no longer invest in any brown assets like a thermal coal-fired plant. In fact, we have just divested a few. So going for any investment on Sembcorp side will only be on green assets like a wind farm or solar farm. We have also adopted we have also pledged to reduce our energy intensity by 25% by 2025, and also to quadruple our renewable assets to 10 gigawatt. And we also echo what DPM Wong has mentioned, that we will go net zero by 2050. So our company tagline, if you don't know, is sustainability is our business. So we are committed to support the global move to energy transition into a more sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us take a look at the questions from the audience. In terms of popularity, we have one question here. Is there an automated system to periodically clean solar panels to reduce the dust accumulated on solar panels, which reduces its efficiency?
Maybe I'll take
Andy, you
that.
have to
If you have seen the exhibit out there, we have a robot. That's the second generation of a robot that we have. It's fully autonomous. The previous version, we still need a guy to actually control the robot. But the robot doesn't go out there and clean on its own when it's dirty or it's soiled. So we actually have software to tell us. We break down 7 different kinds of losses on our panel. It could be shading loss, thermal losses, soiling loss being one of them. And we'll deploy these robots out there because cleaning is expensive. We don't clean it unless absolutely necessary to clean. That's one. In our Tuas solar land project, we have also adopted a new technology to harvest rainwater to rinse the panel for 2 purposes. One is to cool the panel down because as it gets hot, you lose your efficiency. The other one is also rinse the panel to make it cleaner. So these are some of the technologies that have been already used.
Any of the other panel members would like to add?
Yeah, I'll also add on. So at Chin, we have under our care about 11 gigawatts of solar assets in different countries. What we have adopted is also using drones to do periodic scanning to find the hotspots. Again, finding panels that are either dirty, covered with dirt, or maybe soiled by bird poop and that kind of thing. But also panels that are inefficient. So stuff like this would definitely help with the overall operation efficiency of these solar assets. Yep.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. Do you foresee wireless charging of EV to be an upcoming trend and to be widely deployed in the future? Wireless charging of EVs.
So I can start?
Yes, Samuel, please.
Yeah. So wireless charging is not a new technology. It's basically another means to an end. So whether you do wireless charging or you plug in and you charge. But I think the more relevant question will be, where will be the energy source? I think to achieve sustainability and net zero is not the means that you use to charge your vehicle, but the power generation that will be used to charge your vehicle. I think that will be probably a more relevant question. That's just my view.
Vernon, you like to add?
Yes, I agree. And at the same time, I think if you're looking at wireless charging, you may have to consider the infrastructure cost as well. Currently, one of the top costs of of installing a charger, you realize that the cost of installation of a charger is more than the charger cost itself. So this is something that you have to consider, because if you are looking at wireless charging, I think the infrastructure cost is going into the civil side as well. Yeah.
Just to also jump back a little bit, I think many of you are already aware. There are some European countries that are trying this. Germany, for example, they are already trying induction charging. So it's still pretty new. The jury is still out there. Probably, I would feel that for Singapore, maybe it's not a most burning issue to go into wireless charging, but to look at the source where we produce the energy, because let the other countries learn, tell us how they can improve, and then we can do a better version of it.
Okay, in the interest of time, we'll have one last question. What are the other challenges that Singapore faces in energy sustainability, and how to overcome these challenges?
Maybe let me
Eddie?
have a go. I think the 4 switches that's mentioned, one of it is the power import. Because we are so land scarce, there's a study that's been done that even we cover all the roof in Singapore, every single roof, we will hardly hit even 3% of our energy consumption. And unfortunately, solar is our only renewable option in Singapore. Wave is challenging, wind is even more challenging for us. So we can only consider power imports to bring in physical green electrons. And if you have sat through the previous few SIEW, there have been announcements that the green electrons are not coming in so soon. The cables are not coming as fast as we like them to be, which is why we are even considering getting it 4,000 kilometers away, where potentially we can just get it from our neighbors. So I think that's one of the key challenge of how we get more green electrons into our network, where solar is pretty much our only option in Singapore, unless we get the green electrons from the regional countries.
Okay. Yep. Thank you for answering the questions. Okay, we will come to the end of the panel discussions. We will invite the panel members to have a group photo. All right? Okay.
Thank you all for an illuminating discussion on how companies can leverage technology to foster greater innovation in energy sustainability. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the second panel session. The theme is Workforce Career Development and Training. Please refer to the QR code shown on the screen, which you can scan to share any queries or comments you may have regarding the panel topic. I would like to invite the panel on stage. Our panel moderator, Ms. Jessie Yao, Deputy Director, Professional and Adult Continuing Education or PACE Academy, Singapore Polytechnic. Our distinguished panelists, Ms. Jeanette Lim, Director, Industry Development Department, Energy Planning and Development Division, Energy Market Authority, Professor Chen Kin-jet, Professor and Director of Programs, Engineering, Singapore Institute of Technology, Mr. Chia Su-ping, Principal, Singapore Institute of Power and Gas, and Ms. Shelvin Loh, Director, Jobs Skills Insights Division, Skills Future Singapore. Ms. Yao leads the outreach and development team at PACE to engage and collaborate with companies, industrial associations, agencies, and technology solution partners for workforce upskilling. She drives the design and implementation of training solutions for companies. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now hand over the mic to our panel moderator, Ms. Yao. Ms. Yao, please.
Thank you, Boon Teck. Thanks, Boon Teck, for the good introductions. Good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Especially thanks to our panelists who made their time for these panel discussions. Before we start the panel discussions, maybe we could have our panelists to have a short introduction of themselves. So we know that the name and destination already displayed on the screen. Maybe you could share with us maybe what are your key responsibilities in your organization. Maybe we start with Jeanette, please.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Jeanette, Director of Industry Development at EMA. So my main role is twofold. One, I look after the research, innovation and enterprise development for the power sector, and I also look after manpower issues for the power sector.
Thank you, Jeanette. Next, we'll go to Prof. Zheng King Jet from SIT. Maybe you could have a good introduction about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Jessie. My name is King Jai. I'm a professor of electrical power engineering. But my main role nowadays in SIT is as a director of engineering programs. In SIT, we offer a very diverse suite of degree programs. So almost 40 of them, and many of them are in the engineering area. So under my purview, I have 12 undergraduate degree programs ranging from civil to electrical to mechanical to system engineering. One of the degree program perhaps is very notable and relevant to today's theme of discussion is a degree program in electrical power engineering. And like many of our SIT degree program, it's co-branded with an overseas university, and in this particular case for the electrical power engineering, it's co-branded with Newcastle University. Right, so it's a degree program very, very dedicated to all those who aspire to work in the electrical power and energy sector. Now, and another degree program also very relevant is one in sustainable built environment. Okay, so very much on the demand side, how do you tackle reducing the energy consumption in buildings and so on? Because as we all know, cooling our buildings, okay, is one of the biggest component of energy consumption in Singapore.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Zheng, for the good introduction of himself and also the range of the programs offered by SIT. Students over there, please take note. If you have any questions about the degree program, please look up for Prof. Zheng later after the panel discussions. Okay, next we will have Suping from SIPG. Suping, could you have a quick introduction of yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. So before I start, I'd like to thank Singapore Poly for asking me to come back here. These are familiar grounds. I was here for 9 years and enjoyed working here and in the School of Electrical and Electronic Engineering. And we have a good curriculum, I have wonderful colleagues we have worked before, and of course I enjoyed teaching the 17 to 90 years old. So for us, good to see you all again. So for students-wise, as a training institute and SP group, I do meet up students who are ex-students who are now employees of SP group, and they come to an institute for courses and building their career in SP group. So it's something that is very enriching as a lecturer inside in Singapore Poly. Okay, for what's my role as a principal? Okay, I'm the principal of Singapore Institute of Power and Gas. We are the training arm of SP group. And we are also the centralized training institute for the energy and power sector, and also continuing education and training center appointed by SSG. So with all this accreditation, our responsibility to upskill, to train, and not only SP group staff, we also have this mandate to train staff from other industries. So a lot of courses are also going towards the built environment industry as well as the engineering service industry. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Suping, for the introduction. So not only we have a potential IHL to join to further studies, now we have a potential employer to join. So students also please take note of that. So let's introduce the last panelist. So we have our Miss Shelvin Low from Skill Future Singapore. Shelvin, could you have a quick introduction about yourself?
Testing. Thank you, Jessie. Thank you very much to SP for inviting me. I'm Shelvin from Skills Future Singapore. It's an agency under the Ministry of Education. I lead a team of about 15 job skills analysts in SSG. It's a new team that we set up in SSG. It's a job role that we created. If you Google, any of you Google job skills analyst, it's probably very hard to find what the job role is. Basically, our day job is to mine jobs and skills data. We look at skills demand data, we mine job posting data to see whether job content has changed of existing jobs. We study skills supply data using different job boards as well as talent portals. And then we study interesting jobs and skills profiles of frontier leading firms as well as frontier cities to see whether what are the skills that are needed and then be able to anticipate these changes ahead of time and then trigger the change within our skills ecosystem. So we, in SSG, we work very closely with SP, as well as SIT, as well as SIPG, all our training providers, to be able to articulate these skills and be able to develop and fund, of course, skills training programs that are relevant and ahead of time for the sector. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Shelvin. So in order to get our funding and also upskill ourselves, right? So please remember to look out for my Skill Future portal to continue to upskill yourself. Okay, today's discussions is really on the workforce career development and training. We will discuss how companies, IHL, agencies could engage one another in an ecosystem so to strengthen the development of talent pipeline for energy and power sector. Because if you look at the topic today, right, energy, sustainability, and innovation, it seems like a very big topic. So maybe we could have our panelists to share with us what's your view or your definition about energy sustainability. So that is to could scope our panel discussions accordingly. So what aspect it covers and what does it mean to you? Maybe we start with Jeanette.
Thank you, Jessie. Okay, I'm just going to start off with this. This is the third time you hear it today, but I think it's very important. So I think you've heard now for the third time that I think the power sector accounts for about 40% of Singapore's total carbon emissions. So when you talk about energy sustainability, it is definitely an important sector where we need to think about how we can support the ambition for Singapore to reach net zero by 2050, right? So this is a very clear case of what we need to do. I think in 2019, EMA announced the energy story. My chief executive earlier talked about the 4 switches, right? 4 switches are natural gas, solar, regional power grids, and also low carbon alternatives. So we've been using these to drive sustainability for the sector and the energy transition. But it is no easy feat. I think it's very highly dynamic, the journey towards the energy transition, because we have a lot of uncertainties. We talk about technology, we talk about geo-economic issues. So because of this, and also because in Singapore, we all know, right, we are small, we're densely populated, we're also alternative energy disadvantage. So we put all these things together, it makes it very, very challenging for Singapore in terms of energy sustainability. And you pack together with what we call the energy trilemma, right? To keep power, keep energy affordable, sustainable, and also secure. So it's a huge balancing thing that we will need to do. But notwithstanding this, it's very important and we continue to push on with our efforts. So when we talk about innovation, it is extremely important because it's one of the key planks by which we will be able to reach the target of net zero. And energy innovation means really transforming the way we both produce and also we use energy. And I think we need to think very carefully about how all these can be contextualized for Singapore. Right? Singapore is small, hot and humid weather, and there's a lot of land constraints. You heard that many times in the last panel, right? And it's through innovations that are able to mitigate these things will be very important. I give you an example. We all know solar is very important, right? But because it's land constraints, right? But it is the most promising renewable energy source for Singapore. But because of land constraints, we are still able to deploy solar by quite a bit. And why is that? Because of innovation. So we have deployed it in innovative ways. We have done it in waterways. We have deployed it in vacant land spaces. We also see it on sheltered walkways. And all of these actually have made Singapore one of the most solar-dense cities in the world, despite all the constraints that we face. So innovation is extremely important. I think the other thing about innovation is also about how, because you heard just now in the panel, is power sector is just not a power sector. It percolates across many sectors, right? You talk about the EVs, the grid constraints, and also buildings. There are many different things that impact the sector. So innovation cannot be piecemeal. A solution cannot just be for one part of it. It has to be co-developed and also integrated so that it can be used for both the local, regional, and then the global context. So I think that that's something that how we see innovation in that sense. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette, for sharing us the 4 switches. So on top of, we have 4 national taps for water, right? So now we will move to maybe to SIPG first. Okay, so as a part of the SP group, with the tagline of the SP group, right? Empowering the future of energy. So how would you define energy sustainability and innovation?
Okay, this empowering the future energy is a tagline that SP Group came out in 2021. Is to the ambition is to create a low carbon smart energy Singapore by 2030. So in this area, looking at 4 areas whereby how energy sustainability and innovation will come about. So first area is district cooling. I think a lot of us will be aware we have this flagship Singapore district cooling and the Marina Bay area. So that's where we went into the commercial space. And of course, you understand district cooling, of course, improve the energy efficiency to provide air conditioning to the buildings. So that's a commercial space. We also went into the industry space, whereby ST Microelectronics and Ang Mo Kio Technical Center, there will be an industry district cooling. We also went into the town space, Tampines Eco Town, whereby we're going to have a distributed district cooling system. And last but not least, the residential space. The residential district cooling at Tengah, this is where the residents have a choice. We empower the residents have a choice to choose between the residential district cooling or the conventional AC split unit. So that's the first area that we look at energy sustainability. So second area is electromobility. As you can see a lot of SP EV chargers, right? So our aim is to create an extensive as well as easily accessible EV charging network in Singapore. And currently we have more than 500 EV chargers over more than 100 locations. And we are the number 1 provider of fast charging facilities. So when you talk about EV charging, so it's from the grid to the vehicle. SP Group, we're also studying how to have this vehicle to grid. How can a vehicle contribute back to the grid? Of course, current statistics, there's around 4,000 to 5,000 of EV on the roads. But look forward to 2040, whereby a lot of vehicles may be converted to EV, because the panelists were saying that hydrogen may come as alternative as well fuel cells. Let's say all are EVs, 600,000 EVs with batteries. Can they contribute back to the grid? Of course, to increase the grid reliability. So that's mobility. The other area they are looking into, number 3, is renewable energy investment. In fact, SP Group has been in this solar energy business. We have a few installations. One was Sembcorp Marine. We also have an installation recently for AIMS APAC Red, whereby we're going to put solar panels on their premises. So these solar panels, we don't only install solar panels, we provide solutions. You may have heard about the Green Energy Tech. It's a software developed by SP Group or a subsidiary, SP Digital, whereby it gives you a solution, a wide solutions in terms of integrating building management system and all the data, so you can give a seamless energy sustainability management for our clients. So with that, and how does GET get involved in this? How does it help in this solar installation? So GET employs IoT, employs AI, And we have this advanced metering infrastructure, so we can manage the energy from the solar cells, as well as to monitor deployment of these solar cells to store it, so for energy optimization. So when we talk about solar, somehow the question of ESS also come in, right? Energy storage system, in particular battery. So SP Group, we also involved in R&D. We have a ESS in Woodland, a 2.4 megawatt hour to test on intermittency as well as a frequency response. And I mentioned that in the earlier panel, we have ESS, we have EV, we have solar. So all these are considered distributed energy resources. So all these are coming into the grid. So there's a need to have a management system. We call it the DERMS, Distributed Energy Resource Management Systems. And you use real-time monitoring as well as smart controlling, so you can integrate all this together and still maintain grid reliability. Okay. So number 4, the last area is energy as a service. So, GET is a service to buildings, to building owners. We also installed, I believe you all read in the papers, smart electricity meters. So with these meters, the consumer is able to look at half-hourly consumption rates so as to understand the usage. Recently, we also installed smart water meters. So again, we collect data to understand the consumption of water so that we can look in the plans to make water sustainable for Singapore. Okay. The last thing I want to mention is SP apps. So we have an application. I don't know how many of you have downloaded the apps. So SP apps, we allow consumers, empower them to monitor their electricity, their gas, their water. We also help them to manage their carbon footprint, tell them about decarbonization, as well as they can book their EV charger stations. And we have a green up, so you can earn retail points if you follow some of the green sustainable practices and lifestyle changes. So these are the 4 areas that we consider as energy sustainability and innovation that SP Group as a company embarks in.
Yeah, thank you, Suping, for sharing these 4 areas. Okay, so now we will move to SSG. Shelvin, maybe you share with us, what do you think about this energy sustainability and innovation?
Thanks, Jessie. Put it simply, I think energy sustainability and innovation is really about sustainable innovation, innovative ways of developing sources of energy, alternative sources of energy, as well as sustainable users of energy, which is very, very broad, right, and which actually affects all sectors today. And in SSG, when we look at this, this is a very important piece when we look at the jobs and skills in the green economy. And in SSG, we saw clustered all the jobs and skills into 4 economies: a green economy, digital economy, care economy, as well as Industry 4.0. And in the green economy space, in our last skills report that we launched last November, and we're going to have a next one coming up on 22nd November, it's very interesting that today in the green economy, it already touches more than 17 sectors across our economy today. And energy transition management is definitely one. Energy audit management, for example, is another one. Energy sustainability management is another one, right? And there are many, many sectors that sees this skill as one of the more important skill that is required by many, many job roles and many different industries. Manufacturing is definitely one sector, built environment is another. You also have many emerging key sectors like hospitality and tourism, land transport, air, land, sea transport, as well as more nascent sectors like agri-tech as well. So definitely this is one area that SSG is looking at very closely. And in order to do that, what we are trying to do is to look at the job posting data to see what are the fast-growing skills, the high-growth demand skills that we call, right, that all employers are looking for. And the more employers looking for these skills, the more we want to be able to articulate these skills and make sure that we have the sufficient training programs for them. Separately, we also work with EMA, just launched last week, right, at the Youth at SU. We looked at job skills insights for the clean energy sector. And we looked at not only the skills demand, but we also examined the skills supply by looking at clean energy professionals globally. And we track what are the fast-growing skills that these clean energy professionals are investing in themselves. And apart from green skills, another key area is also Industry 4.0 skills as well as digital skills. Programming and coding is definitely one. Big data analytics is definitely one. So these are all critical skills that we think needs to support the energy sustainability innovation drive that can support all different sectors. And I say this why? Because I think it's very exciting. When we were at Youth at SU last week, when we saw the different projects that the students came up with, not just the Singapore Poly was one of them as well. We have IT students, we have the university students, and all the projects were so exciting. It's about combining ICT skill, digital skills, green skills to provide circular solutions that can support many different sectors. And with that, we think that there's so much potential, that's why it's a call out to the students here. There's so much potential in the clean energy sector, so much potential in investing in skills that can equip yourself to be one step ahead in the energy sustainability innovation area.
Yeah. Thank you, Shelvin, for having a sneak preview on the Job Skill Insight report, which will launch the end of this month, right? Yeah, hold on, because you start answering my second questions already. so hold on for a while. So we'll go back to the job and skills related questions in a while. Maybe we will hear from Prof. Zheng to share with us, what do you think about this energy sustainability in your view? Yeah.
Okay, I think a lot has been said about the various technology behind energy sustainability and innovation in this area. So no doubt, okay, as IHL, okay, we are graduating students with bachelor degrees. So we make sure that we train our students depending on the degree, okay. Make sure that our students are trained with the right skills, the right knowledge, the technology. What I want to now emphasize is that in SIT we are also concerned about the big picture, because no doubt, okay, some of the degrees, for example, electrical power engineering or sustainable infrastructure, which deals with buildings, and then another one dealing with another degree deals with the electrification for transportation, right? So all these are smack right in this energy sustainability. But how many students are enrolling in this program, right? So this degree program, take for example, electrical power engineering, we are taking in 100 students, about 100 students a year, okay? But in total, in SIT, we take in, okay, by the time when we get to our new permanent campus in Punggol, we will be taking in every year about 4,000 students. Every year, and intake of 4,000 students. But then, if we say that we are only teaching to these students from in this few niche area degree program, the core of the energy and sustainability, then perhaps we are not giving our graduates, our alumni, the big picture, right? So we have given a lot of thought to it, and SIT has been constantly revamping, revising its curriculum. So now we have already decided, since energy sustainability is so important, we want to make sure that none of our students gets left behind. None of them will get left behind. So we have actually instituted what we call university program structure, such that there are common modules for all degree programs, whether you are studying accountancy, business, physiotherapy or whatever. But we make sure that you get some basic common grounding in knowledge of energy, sustainability, and so on, right? So we have done that. So we make sure that none of our students get left behind. But of course, students who are enrolled in the more direct area, like electrical power or built environment, we make sure that these students, of course, receive a lot more knowledge, a lot more skills in this area. But every of our graduates in future, okay, not everyone will get some grounding in this very important area of energy sustainability. Okay, so we have recently changed many. In fact, all our degree program, all the 39 degree program, okay, we have instituted this so to make sure that no one's get left behind. No one's get left behind. Okay, so that's one point. Another point I want to make is that besides the big picture, is that we also want our students to see the complete picture. the complete picture. So when we talk about sustainability, okay, so one of course, is very exciting, you talk about, say, designing a solar PV system, installing a solar PV system, commissioning it, and all that. All this is very exciting, but we want to also make sure that our graduates, okay, look at the total life cycle costing, the total circular economy. All right, so even before you put in the details of your solar PV system design, you are already thinking, in 20 years' time, how are all these solar PV panels going to be taken out, going to be replaced, recycled, okay, reuse or recycle and so on. Okay, another upcoming, for example, another upcoming technology in this energy sustainability is batteries. Batteries energy storage system. So again, battery energy storage system, they degrade over time, but although they may not be suitable for, say, use in the, say, electric vehicle, but they still have a lot of life in them. So we always now, okay, make sure that we think about second life use or even third life use for all these distributed energy resources. All right? So again, we have been revamping our curriculum to make sure that the student, okay, look at the complete picture, okay, with the circular economy in mind. Okay, don't just be excited about installing, say, new solar PV system, new EV charging infrastructure, but think about the day when this charging infrastructure needs to be dismantled, needs to be replaced, okay, with newer technology, and then what do you do with this obsolete parts, okay, obsolete system and so on, okay, how do you recycle them? Okay, so all this is very important when you talk about sustainability. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor. It's always important for the training provider to train the future talent with the emerging skills. So when they join the workforce, they are equipped with these skills that can align with all the emerging trends in the industry. So since we are on this workforce topic, right, now we move on, because just now we hear from our keynote speaker, also from panelists, especially from Jeanette from EMA, share about the new development in the energy and power sector. But with this new development in the sector, right, how would it impact the companies and the workforce in the sector? So maybe I will start with the questions that, is there any new job roles and new functions that will be created, which we never hear before, but now, moving forward, these are the new job roles or new functions will be created because of the new development in the sector. Maybe I will invite Shelvin to share a bit more.
Thanks, Jin. Thanks, Jessie. For sure, there are many new job roles. In fact, you already start to see when you start to cull job posting data. Sustainability manager is definitely one. A sustainability consultant, for example, and that's needed by many, many different sectors today. One of the top fastest growing job roles. Another one in the energy sector is things like carbon offset business development manager. Quite niche, but it's up and coming. Also in the area of renewable energy consultant, another one that we start to see in manufacturing firms, especially companies in the bigger scale, where you need to look at compliance and energy targets. Also environmental impact consultant, that's also very much needed in the built environment space. So there are many job roles that are up and coming. Skill sets are required, not the whole stack of skills are new. I think what's new probably are some of the green skills like sustainability management, environmental sustainability management, for example. But existing skills like the technical skills you still need, continuous improvement skills you still need, for example. If it's an engineering role, some of the engineering skills you still need. So it's really about stacking on top of your existing skills and putting a layer it with some of the green skills that are required because the job content in your role has changed. But I must say it's not all just new jobs. The new jobs comes about when the businesses take on move from brown to green, and they develop new business units, and there are sort of new work functions that the companies are undertaking. There are also many existing job roles that the companies will still need to have. And I think today, I can say almost every job role is greening, where the processes that you are making, either the processes or your work tasks or the way you do things are adopting a more sustainable, more circular, a more greener perspective, right? More conscious about the environment impact as well as the carbon footprint that you are exerting, right? So I think today many existing job roles in the engineering sector, like process engineer, product engineer, design engineer, many of these, when you look into the job content, many of them will look at more sustainable processes. How do you design products and processes that are more sustainable in nature? How do you make sure that you use, reduce your resource, your materials, for example? How do you develop more sustainable sources of materials, for example? So I think in many of these existing job roles, we also see that they are increasingly taking on some of the green skills so that your existing work processes becomes greener as well. So there are many, many different opportunities from a jobs and skills perspective.
Thank you, Shelvin, for sharing not only the new job roles or functions that may be created, such as a sustainability manager or even the carbon offset consultant. So it also impacts our existing workforce. If we don't upskill today, maybe the skills that we are having today will be outdated one day. So that's always important to continue to upskill ourselves. Maybe I will hear from Suping. So from your view or from a SIPG perspective, so how these people who are impacted for the existing workforce, impacted by the new development in the industry, how could they very alert about it and identify the skill gap and upskill themselves?
Okay, again, SIPG, we are training still for energy and power sector. Perhaps I can talk something about the power generation companies. As last week in the CU, it's mentioned that hydrogen will take up 50% of our energy needs in Singapore. So our current, all our combined cycle plants in our 6 GenCos in Singapore are running on natural gas. Right? So you may have heard in the papers, Keppel is going towards partial hydrogen and in future full hydrogen type of combined cycle power plants. So it's more of a, for me, it's more of a reskilling, right? The original skill sets in running a normal existing nitrogen gas power plant will have to change. You have to reskill yourself to be able to handle hydrogen. Because hydrogen compared to natural gas has its own properties, its own safety, its own management. So that's one area that GenCos have to be aware and take note of this energy transition as we go from natural gas to the low carbon alternative, in this case in hydrogen. So for SP Group itself, okay, this energy transition, I mentioned about the electricity, smart electricity meters. So, you know, in the past, we used to have these meters outside our home, you know, with a dial, and you need someone to take readings. So all these have changed to smart electricity meters. So how SP Group itself upgrade our, or quite job redesign our workers. So now it used to be called meter reader, now they call it a meter reading officer, because this officer has upgraded himself, right, to know, understand the latest digital skills in order to handle this new latest technology in smart metering. So so that's what SP Group does, and the worker itself has to make an effort also to reskill and upskill.
Yeah, thank you, Suping. Maybe I will invite Prof. Zeng to share about more about this, because just now you share about you have some of the programs that are offered by SIT, so you also need to equip, need to redesign or incorporate with some of the new skills, right? So could you highlight what are the very key important emerging skills that the students should equip with before they join the sector?
Okay. So there are two aspects to this. So one is that what we call the soft skills, okay? The soft skills. So we realize that that is very, very important, all right? So whether you are tackling energy sustainability or something else, soft skills is very, very important. Okay, and when I say soft skills, these are skills which are transferable, regardless of whether, okay, when you graduate, you are working in this sector, but after some time, you might have do a mid-career switch to another sector, but those skills will remain relevant to you. So example of soft skills is like digital skills, okay? How do you handle digital data, critical thinking, innovative design, okay? So that is applicable to any sector, okay? So we make sure that our students are equipped with the soft skills. Right? Now, the second aspect is that we all know technology is changing very fast, okay, especially in the power energy sector. So what we have done is that we have created some change in each of our program, the curriculum structure, such that we have a number of elective slots. And these elective slots, we change very frequently. Every year, we can react very fast. We can create new modules for the student, the current year graduating student, the final year student. They can choose these new elective modules, okay, which are, for example, let's say battery energy storage, okay. So this is one of the new modules for our electrical power engineering degree program, right? So in other words, we have created a framework where the student can pick up new modules, and also for the faculty to offer emerging technologies, okay, very fast, very quickly, okay, without disturbing the year 1, year 2, the fundamental, the core modules, okay. So this is one way we have been approaching this issue.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. Sherwin, you have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to add on to the soft skills part because it's super duper important. And I just want to add, because we also did try to look into the job posting data of companies hiring sustainability professionals, and there's quite a variety of it, right? It's interesting, some of the top critical core skills, or what SSG calls the soft skills, are skills like communication and problem solving. Communication, not just simple communication, email communication, but also about brand storytelling, problem solving, because I think today in the green economy, the solutions are quite multidisciplinary, and therefore you really need quite a holistic way to look at some of the problems, right? Another one is collaboration in some of the soft skills needed. Two other soft skills that we keep seeing coming out are things like self-management, because these are problems that you probably hardly sort of encountered in the past, but increasingly these kind of green economy, sustainability problems are surfacing to the surface, and the lens that you take is from how do you manage some of these problems? How do you manage yourselves? How do you sort of recover when you look at certain problems and it didn't sort of, it didn't give you the solution that you need, right? Another one that, interesting skill is influencing skills. Really, it's about how do you influence your suppliers to come on board, for example, to come on board the sustainability agenda that you have from a company perspective. How do you influence your stakeholders? How do you do change management within your company? So that's another skill that we keep seeing coming up when employers are looking for sustainability professionals in their job posting data.
Thank you, Sherwin, for sharing. Yeah, it's very important for us to always upskill ourselves with critical core skill. And sometimes critical core skill could not be learned by just you attend a 2-day course, then you learn, okay, how to do storytelling. But sometimes it's a different of the storytelling that you can do with the data that you need to tell a story, right? So, and also it's very hard to go to a 1-day course to learn collaborative or teamwork skill. And this critical core skill actually sometimes important to incorporate into the technical skill learning so that you can learn the technical skill and the core skill at the same time. So this is why the critical core skill always work hand in hand together with technical skill. Maybe I will go back to Jeanette. So because you are the lead economic agency for the energy and power sector, right, EMA. So we have shared about the impact to the jobs, impact to the skills, what are the emerging skills, and how should we get ready with our fresh graduates so that before they join the workforce, right? So from company perspective, so if I want to get my new hires to be ready with the new skills, or do I want to reskill my existing workforce? So what would be the support or the manpower development plan that from the agency point of view, that to support the companies in this industry to focus on the workforce development?
Yeah, thanks, Jessie. Maybe if I could take one step back first, right? I think we've heard a lot about the skills needed But I wanted to also to set the context first. I think what, the picture that my chief executive painted earlier, I think what is very stark is that the sector is transforming very rapidly. And I think for people in the sector or people who are going to join the sector, it is going to be a very exciting ride. Because I think, today, if you look at power generation, 95% is generated from natural gas, right? We talked about solar, right, being the most promising renewable energy, but also because of the constraints we face, it is still going to be a small part of it. So where does the rest come from, right? There was an announcement of the what you call regional power grids, where we're going to import low carbon electricity, and we said that we're going to import up to 4 gigawatt by 2035, right? That's almost, I think, 30% of our power generation. And I think last week, DPM Wong talked about the hydrogen strategy. And, with improvements in technology, we are looking to supply up to half of Singapore's power needs, energy needs by 2050. So if I were to stand at a junction today, and I look, 20, 50 years later, the whole sector would have transformed. And the power sector, as you're all familiar, it is not so easy to change. Infrastructure takes a long time to build, takes a lot of money to invest in, because it's a lot of money to invest, and it's a long-term investment. So when you look at the picture today, it's a very changed environment. So people tell me, oh, very lucky, you're actually in this sector now. Everything very happening now, right? It's like when you look at the IT sector many years ago, I would say when I was still quite young, nobody wanted to go to computing, But look at it today, and I think people have told me that, this is what they see for the energy sector. So I wanted to lay that down first, because that's extremely exciting. And the jobs that come of it, I think even for companies who want to train, it's always about what does Singapore want to do? What do we want to excel in? But I think beyond this, it's also about how in the region there are so many opportunities, because everybody has either made a commitment and or actually know that they have to mitigate the impact of climate change. So while I think it's still quite nascent today, the rest of the region, we will continue to see things like solar, energy storage, smart grids. We talk about the regional power imports and low carbon alternatives. These are switches for Singapore, but we do see that there is a lot of potential in the region. So when you talk about a job, getting the skills, it is not only a local job, it is actually a regional, a global job. So which is actually very exciting for, I think, especially for youths who are embarking on this career or intend to embark on this career. So maybe if I could just name a few examples of what we're looking at in terms of how exciting it will be and where I think the emphasis will be. So we talk a lot about solar. Because it's land constrained, we have to look at unconventional solar. So unconventional would be things like the on waterways, right? Where, it's not very common. In fact, it's not anywhere really done in the region, but in Singapore. But there is a lot of promise overseas. So we also talk about BIPV, where actually it is not flat on a rooftop, but actually it is vertical. Right? For ESS, for Singapore, we are land constrained, right? This is something you hear all the time. So what EMA is also working in industry is also test bidding different ways where you can deploy it innovatively. So for example, can you stack the energy storage systems? It is not allowed today because there are a lot of safety issues. But if you can do this, you can deploy the solution in many different cities in the world, especially in the region. Right? So things like smart grids also are becoming more apparent with more distributed energy resources. And of course, I think hydrogen is a huge game changer. It's very early in the game, but there is a lot of things that I think we can work with different partners, either domestic or international, to bring on board solutions. So I think if I'm a company, these are the key things I think would be something we want to focus our efforts on. And I think the training that has been taught across the panel here, these are actually very important skills for anyone who wants to join the energy sector. But by and large, it is a very exciting time for every one of us. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeanette. Okay. So in order to strengthen the talent development pipeline to the sector, of course, the collaborations and partnership between the different stakeholders is very crucial, from lead economy agency like EMA with agency from SkillsFuture Singapore, even from companies like SP Group or trade associations, TACs, and also from training providers. Maybe I would invite Professor to share with us, okay, so what kind of collaborations that if you should establish to strengthen this pipeline, talent development pipeline to the sector?
Yeah, so we to strengthen this with the relevant sector. So all our degree programs, for example, we have what we call industrial advisory committee. So we have on board the key the key players from the various relevant industrial sector to sit on our industrial advisory committee to advise us of the rapid changes in that particular sector, as well as to the connections, the connections to the companies which these people are heading, as well as the entire supply chain, in the ecosystem. All right, so that's one way we build up the partnership, with in the relevant industrial sector. Yeah.
Through the internship and the program and industry advisory
they help us
to
offer internship, and maybe I forgot to mention, in SIT we take the internship really seriously. Okay, even our 3-year degree program, our students go out for 8 months of internship where they really work in the company, and they are being assessed as part of the curriculum.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. How about Shelby?
I just wanted to give another view. In SSG, when we look across different sectors, right, and we talk to firms, right, they typically take a 4-step approach. But it's probably not a 4-step, but 4-part approach, right? Whether you buy, build, borrow, or bought, right? Whether do you buy talent, do you buy skills or talent, do you build, do you borrow, or do you bought as in BOT, right? So many companies, you probably would take a distributor approach, right? So for example, we were talking to one of the agri-tech firms that also they sort of buy talent that you in the area of aquaculture, for example. So you need those technical skills, you need to buy them from the market, and you need to look at talent that already has the skills, right? But in the area of they're looking at technology management. So it's really a new business model. Looking at aquaculture, but looking at them as like a production line of sorts. So you need a technology management skills. But in these skills, actually it's very scarce, and that's really their core IP, right? So they have to build those skills, and they work very closely with their own staff to build, and they layer on, they stack up sort of the skills that they already have, but they build the extra on top of it, and they train the people to have the technology management skills, developing the tech and the sensors, for example. And then at the same time, because a firm like that is quite small, but there's a lot of data analytics because they string from end to end, from the incubation part all the way to the harvesting, right? You need to track, for example, the conditions monitoring of the prawns, for example. You need to track the bacterial management in the water, for example. It's circular, the circular system as well. So you need to track all this. There's lots of data going on. So then what the company did was they worked with NUS, they worked with the Center of Innovation to tap through student projects. They borrowed the ICT data analytics skills from the IHLs. So that's how they collaborate with the ecosystem and the IHLs, right? And then the rest, everything else is automated. So, and it is, in a sense, they're able to sort of cope with the talent and skills in this area. So what I'm trying to say is, from a company's perspective, it's probably not one or all. It's probably a mix, and it's important for companies to see what are the skill sets that your people already have today, what are some of the new skills that you need to layer on as you move into new areas, and look at some of these new areas and see what are the new tasks that your actual workers need to have. And based on these new tasks that they need to undertake, what are the new skills that you need to sort of help them to build? And in this area, there are many areas, there are many different training models, I think, today in adult learning that we are very, very open, and that we have seen IHLs as well as training providers, the SIPG, come up with. Workplace learning is super important. That's where they can, adult learners like you and I can learn the skill, acquire it, practice it, and then on the job get direct feedback, and see again where are some of the skills they need to top up. But in such a model like that, we then need the supervisors to be very, very much on the ball, to be able to diagnose skills gaps, we need the company to be very, very involved in the training. That's where I think we have also seen with SIT, the competency-based learning programs the SIT does is super important and is super helpful in helping our adult learners to pick up some of these new skills.
Thank you, Shelvin. Maybe I will invite Suping to share about what kind of collaborations or partnership that we shall establish in this ecosystem so that to continue to build the talent pipeline to the industry.
Okay, SIPG itself, we are in constant contact with our stakeholders. And of course, stakeholders in the energy and power sector, actually it's not very big. Energy and power sector comprises of the GenCos, the utilities, and SP group. And we have close contact with them. And in fact, we have an advisory committee similar to SIT, whereby the CEOs and EMA CE, as well as UPage, the union, right? Union of power and gas employers. So they come together in this advisory committee to give us SIPG a strategic direction as to what are the, we look at manpower issues, we look at courses, and what's the training needs. So besides this, we have technical committees, all technical experts from, again, the GenCos and SP group, and we have a task force coming in to come and discuss how we plan for the current and future manpower training needs. So that's for companies-wise. So for IHL, I'm glad to say that we are working very closely with Singapore Poly. All right, we have this licensed electrical worker preparatory course in Singapore Poly, and we're also running a joint solar PV course in Singapore Poly. Okay, the LEW preparatory course we also run in Ngee Ann Poly, and recently we have also signed a collaboration with Temasek Poly to look into energy storage system, and also Nanyang Poly on the IoT solutions in this for sustainability. So we are short of us, Republic Poly, okay? So after this, we are going to look for them. All right, so these are the 4 polys we're working closely with. And of course, SIT, okay, SIT, SP, we have this partnership. So currently, at this moment, we have 5 staff from SP Group who are attending the Bachelor of Electrical and Power Engineering in SIT. And so it's a integrated work study program with capstone project, and they are full-time staff. So current time they go to SIT. So during break time they go back to work. So it's something that we collaborate with SIT. And last but not least, recently we also collaborated with an energy market company to run joint courses. So in fact, SIPG is very open to able to run courses, and we also we have overseas experts covering on emerging technologies area. So there's an, of course, agency. I'd like to thank EMA for their support to SIPG as a centralized training institute, and of course SSG for the funding, as a CET for the power sector. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. That's important. Okay, so I think we close to the end of our panel discussions. Maybe let me look into the Q&A sessions. Okay, so what are the questions that posted by our audience? So I will choose maybe 2 to 3 questions. Okay, then I will wrap up these panel discussions. Okay, one of the interesting question is, what is workplace learning? How does company implement workplace learning so that it can reduce the downtime for the company to send their employees to training provider to attend courses? Maybe just now, since Shelvin mentioned workplace learning, I would invite Shelvin to talk about this.
Thanks, Jessie. Very good question, whoever asked that. I think workplace learning is one of the newest or learning pedagogies, but in a simple term, right, it's really making your workplace a learning ground. How do you really make your workplaces a place where you can learn, acquire new skills, and these new skills are recognized by the employers as well as recognized by institutions that will offer you the qualifications, right? Today we have started in SSG, we have rolled out this National Center of Excellence in Workplace Learning. Today we have Nanyang Poly, we have Singapore Institute of Technology, SIT as well as Institute of Adult Learning, which are our 3 Center of Excellence in Workplace Learning, as well as SP, NP, NP, as well as RP as well. Yeah. So there are many of these centers of excellence in workplace learning. What they do is actually, we fund many of these institutions. They have sort of OJT blueprints, for example. They also look at building capabilities within companies, within supervisors, so that you can diagnose skills gaps of your workers on the ground. You can work very closely with, for example, the Institutes of Higher Learning to design learning programs that your workers can pick up the skills as part of on-the-job training or as part of the work. And then the skills that they pick up, then we can then award sort of micro-credentials on top of them. And especially fund some of these programs. So today we've seen many companies come on board, companies from across different sectors, big and small as well. Of course, the bigger ones will have a bit more resources to be able to invest in it, but the smaller ones also we've seen many interests. Why? Because the smaller SMEs now face difficulty retaining their staff. So workplace learning becomes a very important strategy to develop and retain their staff.
Yeah. Thank you, Shalvin. Okay, I also see one interesting question. It's talk about with AI overtaking job roles to increase productivity in various industries, what are the strategies to balance AI take over while providing more job opportunities? So it's kind of talking about will AI replace us and how we strike a balance between AI and the manpower while we want to hope to increase the productivity. Maybe one of the panelists who want to answer? Suping or Jeanette?
Okay, maybe I can take a stab
thank
at
you.
it. I think with AI, I mean, we do see, right, with digitalization, AI, it is continuing to be a way of life, right? It's not only in the power sector, it's in every sector in the economy. So I think really when we talk about manpower, it's about building capability so people know how to utilize it. People know how to design systems. I think when we talk about, for example, the power system, I just talked about the different opportunities. Everything relies on AI, but AI needs to be built, AI needs to be integrated, and you can't do everything with AI. So it's really about training the people who can create the data, who can create the solutions, and more importantly, I think it's about integration of solutions, which is really not so easy. And it's not only about integration, it is also sometimes very much in solutions, how you localize them for use in, in the place that you're going to put it in. So for example, in hot and humid Singapore, you can take, you can take solutions from other places, right? Like energy storage systems, you can have it from, from US, you can have it from Australia. But in hot and humid Singapore, things can get very different. So how do you actually design it and customize it? And then use AI to basically, improve on that solution. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeanette.
I just wanted to add, I think this is overhyped in the sense that AI will take away jobs. I think AI will create jobs in the area of AI engineers and the whole gamut of things around AI. And that's a lot of jobs I think that our tech talent will be super interested in. But then again, there are also many jobs within the energy sector, for example, right? In the built environment sector, for example, you still need people to inspect. But of course, then what do you use? In the past, you physically climb up and inspect the buildings yourself. But going forward, actually, you can have apps. You can sort of operate certain drones, for example, or small robots that can go into very narrow spaces for you to inspect. That part of the job is now augmented by technology and by AI or the robotic tools that you have, but you still need the person to actually say, is it safe? Do you certify that this building is safe, for example? It's just that the person now is then augmented by technology. This person will then, maybe, instead of looking at just one precinct or one estate, you can now expand your space over a few integrated precinct, for example. Your job scope is then expanded. You're still the same job role, but it has expanded. Higher level of skills, cognitive skills as well. That's where then that just justifies the higher pay as well. And because of the expanded job scope and the new work task, that's where you then need to see whether you have new skills that are required on the job. But I don't think many of these jobs will disappear tomorrow, but I do think many of jobs will be augmented by technology. And I think today in our way of life, you and me, I think maybe use apps to book Grab, for example. It's already disrupted our way of life, right? We are so used to booking, looking at Google apps, for example, to look at, our traffic, planning our route. So I think this is already part of our way of life, yeah.
It will not replace us, but it will bring our job to a higher value job with the new skill that to handle and to work with the AI solutions. So thanks a lot, all the panelists. So I will wrap up this panel discussion with one story. So let's listen to this story. A very strong woodcutter asked for a job with a timber merchant that he got it. The pay was really good. And there were also the same good conditions that provided to this woodcutter. For that reason, the woodcutter was determined to do his best. His boss gave him an axe and showed him the area where he was supposed to work. On the first day, the woodcutter brought 21 trees down. Congratulations, the boss said. Go on that way. Very motivated by the boss' words, the woodcutter tried harder the next day, but he could only bring 17 trees only. On the third day, he tried even harder, but he only could bring 10 trees down. Days after days, he was bringing fewer and fewer trees. I must be losing my strength, the woodcutter thought. He went to the boss and apologized, saying that he could not understand what was going on. The boss looked into the eyes of the woodcutter and asked, when was the last time you sharpened your axe? My friends, with the technology and automation changing the work is done, many jobs that was once required the most are no longer in demand. In our workplace, there were many opportunities with the right skills that to take our advantage of them. So it's very important that ever you keep upskilling yourself. To wrap up these panel discussions, so we thank all the panelists, and hopefully we could also continue to upskill ourselves in this lifelong learning journey. Thank you to all my panelists and the audience.
Thank you all for an insightful discussion on how key stakeholders in the engineering education ecosystem, such as IHL, companies, and governmental agencies, can collaborate to develop the talent pipeline for the power energy industry. May I now invite the panelists for a group photo, please. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving another round of applause to all our panelists for a robust discussion on fostering transformative innovation in energy sustainability and developing its talent pool. Last but not least, I would like to invite Dr. Lim Joo-gi, Acting Director of SP School of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, on stage for the closing address. Dr. Lim, please.
All right, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying on to the end of today's Rinc. And I think it was a very good discussion of the two panel discussions, and I can see that a lot of robust exchange of ideas. So once again, thank all the panelists who have helped. And I hope all of you all have had an insightful session from all this sharing from the panel speakers. And on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to thank our speakers and also our partners who have been so forthcoming to support our Rinc this year. So the collaboration with Chin and Sembcorp that you saw announced today is part of SP's broader outreach effort to engage our industry partners. This aligns with one of MOE's drives to bring frontier industry technologies, best practices, and expertise to institutes of higher learning. We need to accelerate the learning loop and shorten the time to market transfer of expertise and technologies from industry to academia and back to the market. This will ensure we produce graduates with the relevant skill sets at the right pace that the industry demands. That will play a key role in sharpening the competitiveness of the industry and by extension, the economy. The School of EEE and SP continue to strive to deepen our engagement with current industry partners and to broaden engagement by seeking out new industry partners. Such collaborations yield benefits on multiple fronts. Being in close nexus with the industry will enable SP staff to learn the best industry practices and technologies for adaptation and incorporation into our curriculum to make it industry relevant. Both full-time students and part-time learners would also benefit from enhanced engineering framework, be it modules, short courses, or programs co-designed by the school and our partners. Their internship experience may be enriched as well from gaining access to the latest industry best practice or technological equipment. On the industry front, the company with whom we are in collaboration stands to benefit from having the ability to cherry-pick of the outstanding interns to work for them upon their graduation. In the same vein, the interns get a glimpse into real-world working experiences. These translate into a strong economy in the national arena. So in conclusion, I'd like to say that innovation and transformation are symbiotic. Forging ahead, SP strives to distinguish ourselves as an institution that connects and collaborates with our stakeholders to innovate and create value to transform our learners and the industry. So once again, I want to thank everyone for participating in this year's Rinc event, and I look forward to seeing you all again next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lim. Ladies and gentlemen, we've now come to the end of the Rinc 2022 conference. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as I did and gleaned insights into how energy sustainability and innovation can enhance the way we live, work, and play. Before we conclude the session, please take a minute to scan the QR code as shown to provide your feedback about the event today. Once again, thank you for attending Rinc 2022. It has been my pleasure hosting you today. We look forward to seeing you again at next year's conference. Thank you and have a nice evening.